and welcome back to the Brown Homestead. My name is Sonia. I'm a volunteer here, and today we're going to be continuing on our seed starting journey, and it's going to be a checkup and a little bit of troubleshooting. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. You may want to check out our previous videos in this series. So you've got your seeds sowed up and hopefully you're seeing signs of life, and if you're not, don't panic. Just have a look at your seed packet again, look at your germination rates, and if it's exceeded the germination time expected, then maybe your soil needs a little warming up. So your options are perhaps a seed warming mat or a dome if you've got one. So let's assume that you've had great germination, but things aren't looking quite right. So let's have a look at some of the issues you might be having. Damping off, pest damage, leggy seedlings, leaves turning color, and stunted or stalled growth. Let's work through these one at a time. Damping off is a fungal infection. It's caused by several different kinds of fungi, and what you're going to be looking for is slightly wilted, translucent, or even mushy stems or leaves. This one is better prevented than treated. If you see signs of this happening, your best bet is to cut your losses and toss those starts or trays into the compost and let the compost deal with it. So prevention in this case means proper sterilization. So we want to make sure that our trays have been sterilized, all of our equipment's been sterilized, our pots have been sterilized. You want to make sure that your soil drains properly and it's nice and loose. You also want to make sure that your watering can or whatever you're using to water has been sterilized every once in a while. Fungi basically thrives in cold, wet conditions. So as much as you can prevent that, that's going to help with the damping off. Check that the soil is damp like a wrung out sponge, but not soggy. Bottom water and drain any water that has not been taken up after 30 minutes. Take the domes off your trays once the seedlings have germinated. Run a fan to keep the air circulating. You may need to adjust the ambient air temperature, especially overnight. Pest damage is usually a result of the same conditions that cause fungi infections. So your little fungus gnats can actually spread the spores because those little suckers can fly. And spider mites are literally little suckers. The same preventative measures that I just mentioned will help. And if you do start to see them flying around, hang up some fly tape or sticky paper. Now, leggy seedlings are usually a result of either insufficient light or a little bit of overcrowding. Our seedlings don't really have a legginess problem, but you can see over here how they're sort of bending towards the light source, and that's what you're going to see. They're just going to be a little taller, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to stretch towards the light. So some ways to fix that: you can move the light source closer, 4 to 6 inches above, change out any old bulbs because it could be your bulb. You can add additional light sources, or you can set your light source on a timer to make sure that they're getting between 12 and 16 hours. Thin your seedlings if you suspect the issue is overcrowding. Also, running a fan will help stimulate sturdier stems. You can also do this by gently running your hand across them. Leaves turning color can signify a few different things: moisture levels, light levels, pH levels, and nutrient levels. So you want to make sure that your moisture in your soil is not too wet, not too dry. You want to make sure that the light is diffuse it if it's too bright or at peak sun, or add more light if you're not getting enough. Check your pH levels. You can get little strips at the hardware stores. Usually they have it in the garden center. And as for your nutrient levels, you can either add a soluble fertilizer to your water or ease up on the fertilizer or dilute it. Add an organic soluble fertilizer to your water. Compost tea and worm castings tea will be the most nutrient balanced and offer the right bacterial culture. Dilute the fertilizer by at least half or use less frequently. So stunted growth could indicate usually something's wrong with the roots. So either your moisture levels are off or you've got compacted soil. This you can adjust by transplanting to a new cell or pot with looser seedling mix by adding a bit more perlite. If your seedlings are a bit further along and then suddenly seems to stall, they may be root bound. Pot them up to a larger container to give them room. Okay, so you've got 3 in there. These are a bit young. One option that you can do is, like, say this one's the smallest one. I'm actually just going to pinch him out. There. So it's just to prevent overcrowding. Although they look really healthy, so I don't see a real issue. with letting them hang out in the same pot for a little bit. Thanks for joining us here at the Brown Homestead. I hope I've given you some common remedies for some, common issues. And please join us again soon, especially if you've been enjoying this series so far.